Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Know Your Changemakers, wherein we take you through the journeys of some of the leaders that we have in the HR fraternity who have done great for themselves and for their respective organizations. In that context, today we have with us Thomas, who's kind of leading the HR function at Halodoc. He's the chief of HR at Halodoc, and I would kind of pass on to Thomas to introduce yourself to a Changemakers audience that we have for us here.
Hi guys, my name is Thomas Suhardja. Pleased to be here. Thank you for having me. I've been in Halodoc for more than 3 years and working as HR for Halodoc. Been with some of the companies also in the past, in the tech company, also in the telco companies. I've been with the FMCG company, one of the prominent cigarette company in Indonesia,
Right.
as well as the insurance business. So wide range of HR experience, right, I should say.
And that's what I would love to dive in today.
Yes,
as we discuss a lot about how you've kind of been instrumental in making change in various organizations. So when I look at the transformational journey that Halodoc is doing right now, if you look at, let's say, it's considered as one of the symbols of innovation in today's world, right? Now, the question that comes to mind is, how are you balancing the innovation that is happening at the org at such a rapid pace with the HR journey as well, right? How do you keep that agility going? So how are you balancing that?
We grew the organization together with the time where we grew the business.
Right.
So early stage we all do manual stuff. So it is not like the first day Halodoc boom become the innovative organization, then we have all digital in place, right? I should admit that at the first beginning, even at the employee level, we are still using spreadsheet and lots of things that is done manually. But then what I understand, and then this has been the discussion during the review together with the chief and the CEO of the company.
Right.
What I told them basically, like if we grew our patients, say for example our users, like millions of users, it doesn't mean that we grow our employee, right?
Right.
So that cannot be that you grow 5 times users and the employee grow 5 times.
True.
That's where the digitalization happens. Now we start digitalizing everything, right? So starting from the form, starting from the process, after digitalization process, then we understand that there has to be a platform.
Correct.
And that's where Darwinbox comes into picture and help us partner with us together with the organization to grow.
Right. So if you look at digital transformation, so as you rightly pointed out, it's a journey and it's not just a starting point.
Yeah.
And it happens over a period of time. When you look at what is the landscape looking like, right, today? So for example, there are multiple processes. So you've been with Darwinbox for over 2 years now.
Yep.
Right? And there have been multiple processes that you've moved from, let's say, the paper or manual files to an automated system.
Yeah.
But where do you see the evolution happening, right? I mean, and I'll come to AI in a brief bit because everyone wants to know about that.
Yeah.
But let's say, where is the journey going forward as we talk about digital transformation? What do you foresee happening in the next few years?
Yeah. I think for Halodoc itself, right? So when we begin this transformation, what we understand is that we need to help the organization, especially people there and also the managers, to be able to use the platform as a tools for them to be able to make decision making faster.
Right.
So one of the example is that we used to collect all this information, bits and pieces everywhere. Like talent acquisition has got their own database, our branch in India has got their own database, Indonesia has got also different branches also have different database.
Right.
So every time it gives us a headache as to how we collect this information together. Now it's just a single click or two.
Right.
We are able to identify what is missing and what data that is required to be able to make a sound decision.
Right.
I think moving forward, I think it is not only the speed that is required, but also the ability to understand the whole complex problem. For example, if you look at the Darwinbox, for example, right? We have just had discussion related to how we're going to better respond on things like managers doing all this AI stuff and then enable them to craft all these comments very quickly, right? So I think that's where the digital transformation will be heading towards the near future.
Right. So if you look at folks, one critical thing, as Thomas mentioned, is how do you look at upskilling constantly,
Yep.
right? And the bigger focus will be that you have to look at decision making coming out of it, right? And that's where it needs to lead to that, right? So
Yep.
all the analysis that you're doing has to eventually at some point in time get predictive as well. It's supposed to help you take decisions. So one question that now comes in is that you've been with Darwinbox in the last couple of years, right? What have been some of the major transformational initiatives that you've taken at Halodoc, which have kind of made you feel that, hey, this was fantastic, right? And would want to replicate that across other things as well.
Yeah. I think first of all that we are evolving to get better.
True.
What I understand is that we have to be able to get better every year. So I force my team to be able to come up with all different automation throughout the workflow. I think workflow is one of the best tools that we have.
Right.
Enable us to moving from paper-based, all this format that is normally people doing manual, transfer that into system, not because of the system itself, but we believe that when we transfer that into the system, it helps the less click and the journey becomes better, like the employee experience, etc. Right? So I think that's one of the things that we say we evolve. Other than that, I'm beginning to see that Darwinbox helps in adding value in terms of the process, starting from hiring to building the talent into the ecosystem.
Right.
And that means your talent acquisition module needs to be able to interact with your core. Your core needs to be able to send all data for the analysis.
Right.
Likewise into the payroll system. So I think it becomes
An end-to-end.
the end-to-end journey that I'm appreciating.
Fantastic. And I guess that's very important, right? When you talk about your ecosystem that you've created at Halodoc as well,
Right.
the partnership with the right set of folks becomes very critical in ensuring that it goes on well. So I hope you've been doing a good job on that front with Halodoc.
Yeah. I think what we appreciate really is that the support that comes from Darwinbox, and especially when we want to do the initiatives and we want to do all this workflow.
Right.
I think what is best is like we understand that there are some difficulties, challenges in implementation that the Darwinbox team is able to help and to bridge the gap.
Fantastic. So one question now, moving back to a bit on the personal side.
Yes.
They say that sometimes some negative outcomes or failures can be the stepping stone to success.
Yeah.
And a lot of our audience would have obviously gone through a lot of failures in their life as well. So have there been instances or moments where at that point in time when you were stuck, it felt like a failure, but you were able to come out of it, and then after a point in time you realize that, hey, this was a great learning and it's been a fantastic reversal. Right. Any such experiences that you would like to share?
I think even at Halodoc, like I said, there has been the learning journey also for me.
Right.
Like being in the HR firm for more than 20 years does not mean that you are able to solve all this problem quickly.
True.
I'll tell you one of the examples, right, in Halodoc. The first time I was on board, I was so determined that because I've been speaking with the president, the CEO of the company, right?
Right.
And we were very certain, because both of us know that the talent management is the solution of this. Right? We need to be able to manage our talent, develop our talent, retain our talent. Now I begin to adopt all this my talent management type of competencies that I had in the past, right? Now the thing is, when you implement that in Halodoc, it doesn't work fully. It doesn't work.
Right.
Why? Because the nature of talent war in a startup business is huge.
Correct.
Like you cannot just say that, okay, Ravi is my talent, I need to develop him. Whereas the next day, Ravi is somewhere outside in the organization because someone is poaching Ravi for the big talent and paying Ravi twice as much as what we can pay.
True.
So I think even at the talent management competencies, we need to unlearn. So one of the things that I failed initially during the first time of Halodoc is that we're trying to implement the whole module of talent management, all the competencies of talent management, and yet to see that it doesn't work because you need to prioritize things. So, for example, eventually we realized that of all the talent management, we need to prioritize what we call the succession planning.
True.
in the succession planning, we focus on that. We make sure that everything is implemented based on the succession planning only.
Right.
Rather than thinking of all the possible talent model that we are able to do.
Right. So I guess the critical learning you're saying is that focus on getting one thing right first and then keep incremental changes.
Correct.
Fantastic.
Correct.
Right. And similarly, we talked about failures. Now, obviously, I have to talk about success as well. What have been some of the great moments in your career where you've really felt that, hey, great job done?
Okay. So, I guess during my progress and during my journey, when I become the head of HR, the number one HR in the company, one of the best learning is that this leadership team helped me a lot to be able to understand the business as quick as possible.
Right.
And so that has been the case where in Halodoc, I've been sitting in many different types of business meeting. Try to understand things that we need to do, and especially from the HR front, the organization perspective. How do we basically build the organization capability? It's not only just culture,
Correct.
but how do we help the organization to be able to be more productive? And so some of the model that we do together with the business, of course, as a business leaders, we need to work with them also, right? And they're so welcome in terms of how to build the productivities.
Right.
And so I guess that's one of the pivotal moments where I said that, yes, this is the true HR business partner in the company.
Right. Right.
So I think that's one of the experience I can share.
Fantastic. I think from a success standpoint as well, I think what you mentioned also is relevant in the context of the people that are listening to this interview as well, right? That you look at how can the journey be transformed, but at the same time focus on the learning that comes out of it.
Yep.
Right? So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
One thing which always fascinates me is how there's so much happening around, there's so much chaos around the function, right? And how do you balance that out and still ensure that outcomes are delivered? And that's, as a leader, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
How do you kind of manage that, and what could be the advice for people on that point?
Yeah. It's an interesting question though. So I remember also in Halodoc, right? Normally we have the annual plan.
Right.
Just to know that after 6 months, we need to change our plan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the difficulties is that some people still dwell in that plan and saying that, hey, that's not supposed what we're doing. Right. That's not the thing that we have planned previously in the past. Right. But I guess to me, I think the dynamic is, if you know where the business is going, there is no way you say to the HR front, like, this is my HR strategy. There's no way you can say that this is my HR plan.
Right.
I have to stick with it, right?
Right.
What you need to do is to be able to look at the organization and see what's the gap. And that is the best, I think the best HR strategy ever. Like, you're responding to what the business wants and the business needs, and so that you're helping the business to grow.
Right.
I think that's over the chaotic part that sometimes you need to revise your plan every 6 months and look at that again. Hey, that's not the plan I want. Okay, but the budget is already submitted. So you have to think of how are you utilizing the budget that you have for the new plan that you are able to.
I guess what you said in the beginning as well, right? So I mean, from a business acumen perspective, the better as a professional I understand the business, the better I can manage this chaos. Fair point there.
I was looking for that word, so the business acumen. Yeah, I think the HR community, like I said, needs to be able to go outside their comfort zone and to stretch yourself to be able to understand the business as well as the business acumen.
Right. So a couple of questions, right? So one is like from a future perspective, right? So, and we've had the privilege to work with you for the last 2.5 years, and we hope that it continues as well.
Yeah.
Where do you see this partnership going in terms of, we talked about a lot of things today, right? So where do you see more focus coming in from a Darwinbox standpoint, which can actually help Halodoc even more? So
I think it can be, you can see that in 3 parts, right? The first part, I think for the organization, I think for the management, for the company itself, I think we need to strengthen the partnership to be able to see what has been the learning in the communities.
True.
So the management needs to be able to learn from Darwinbox. Darwinbox also needs to understand what's actually needed in the organization.
Right.
So I think that's one. Second one, I think you need to understand that our leaders, and especially business leaders, managers, they all have different needs. Like the least thing they want to do for Darwinbox is that they're bogged down with all this transaction type, where you said you are online and you are in the portal, but you need to do so many stuff there.
True.
So I think the challenge of both of us and the HR and the Darwinbox is to be able to really reduce all these transactional, even when you are saying that we've already in the platform and we are in the digitalization. So I'll give you one example. The example is that when you have the Darwinbox, I think there is so much improvement that we can do to the single click preference, right?
True.
So as opposed to typing, click 3, 4, 5 of them, right? So if the manager is able to do the single click, like the one that you just mentioned, right? In the performance management, you can always see the managers is being helped by the AI to be able to say that, hey, looking at your score to your subordinate, here's what you need to give a feedback. The manager can always say yes or no.
True.
Or they can make a modification. So I think it helps the business leaders to be able to make a decision making faster, etc. And then the third part is actually the HR communities.
True.
I think the discussion like this certainly helps, and especially when you are calling the business leader, and I'm hoping that you also ask business leader to join this community, to be able to share their thoughts and feelings, so that we are able to see that business leader also have the expectation to HR team.
True.
And the HR team needs to evolve, not only being the HR organization for the business, but also to help the business to grow.
True.
So I think that's probably the request or the challenge or the hope that comes out from this discussion for the organization, for the management team, for the managers, and for the HR communities.
Right. Fantastic. So any closing thoughts to our viewers in terms of, let's say, some of them are navigating their HR journeys, some of them starting fresh, some have spent a few years in the organizations. What would be the advice for them as you stand today as a leader in HR?
I think being a change maker, I think the mindset that we need to embark, and especially this is because you guys are the HR front. Every day, every week, every month, and every year, you need to think how to make things better for yourself and then for your communities. And especially this is what I tell you related to how we're going to make a difference in the organization. So it doesn't matter where you start. Some people start digital already because it's in the startup business. You are in the digital front, you start from digital. Some people start from the manual process. It doesn't matter where you come from, you need to get better. And so the way to get better is to see whether this year is actually better from last year. And next year should be better than this year.
Right.
So although it sounds philosophical, but for a change maker, I think embarking the right mindset, having the right mindset to say that I need to get better, I think that helps the organization to grow also together.
Right. Fantastic. And that's a great advice, right? I mean, if you look at how journeys can be different for different individuals, I think it's a fantastic learning that people can take from this.
Yeah.
So, Thomas, we were just discussing also briefly, and I look at my fitness and yours.
Okay.
There's a huge difference, right? So, one question that comes to mind is, how are you finding time to stay fit, right? And you talked about marathon as well.
Okay.
I would love for my audience to hear that also.
Yeah, Rafi. So I'm actually a slow runner, but I don't consider myself as a fast-paced runner, right? But I'm forcing myself every year. I have to run marathon, so 42 kilometers, right?
Wow, that's huge.
So these 42 kilometers actually is a part where it is not only the finish line, but I'm pushing myself to really understand my body, and the state of being, as well as the training plan that I'm doing it day by day. So the preparation will be around like 4 months. I've just finished my 8th marathon last week.
Wow.
So it was a good marathon running.
Right.
So I should say that I think that's a part of my fitness journey.
Right. And how crucial is it? So, for example, for me, that is bike riding.
Right. Okay.
It kind of makes me feel that I'm one with nature.
Okay.
And it's almost like a meditation.
Yeah.
Right? Is running similar for you? I mean, does that give you that connect with nature and your mind?
Yes. But what I like about running, especially in the morning, is that you get connected to wider being, like the nature and etc. Right? You can have a sense of that the mindfulness is there, because you need to be able to know whether your left foot is different than right foot, whether your heart is beating harder, and you need to stop, etc. So in that sense, you actually train yourself every day, discipline yourself, that one day you will be able to achieve the most important or the most difficult task that you've ever had, which is that 42 kilometers running.
I also wanted to point out that Pa Thomas has been continuously improving on his time, which is like phenomenal, right? I think you're doing like almost close to less than 5 hours now.
5 hours,
Right.
five,
Just like,
5 hours.
Which is fantastic. I mean, and that's a clear sign that you look at continuous improvement and minor bits that keep getting added, and folks, that's the advice, right? I mean, from the leader himself, you keep improving and you keep getting better.
Yeah.
Any other hobbies other than running that you?
I actually play music.
Wow.
So I play piano, I play bass, I play drum, I play guitar, I play keyboard.
Right.
But I think it's been a while that I didn't play that. But even here in HR, we form a group of musicians, so that we can have a jam session during our after office hours, etc.
And how crucial is something like this take your mind away from work?
I think it's important to really find yourself outside your work, to be able to pursue your purpose.
Right. It keeps you sane in a way?
Correct. Yeah. I think rather than focusing mostly on the work, I'm not saying that you cannot have work-life balance at work, right? But then outside work, there has to be something meaningful that you are pursuing.
True.
To be able to actually connect to communities and actually bring back or give back to that communities again. So for example, in my running communities, I'm actually one of the senior runners which help the junior runners to run marathon.
Wow.
It's like every time people run, like they said, like, I'm so embarrassed because Pa Thomas is able to run faster than I do. It is not the goal. It is actually helping them to also motivates to being in shape.
Right, absolutely. And I think I'll take inspiration from Pa Thomas on that front, right? I think, and what you brilliantly pointed out is like a community serves that purpose, right? It gives you that ecosystem to grow together, right? And take people with you. And as an HR leader also, I mean, that's the primary role wherein your journey is not just limited to you, but also the entire organization, how you take it forward, the people together. One final question, which I generally ask to all my panelists is, and I'm a true blue Darwinian, right? So I think that question always comes in. So you talked about workflows, right? That's your favorite module. So my favorite is core. I love it. Is there anything else that you love about Darwinbox?
So one of the pivotal decision into getting into Darwinbox, is where you are able to integrate the whole modules. I think that's one of my favorites. I think one of the example is that I've been waiting for some of the HR module that enable us not to type or not to key in information related to candidates when it comes to the employees. And talent acquisition linking to the core is part of the journey where I said, okay, we have to get Darwinbox in it.
Fantastic.
So that's my favorite part also, aside from the workflow journey that we have.
And that's been a fantastic journey, and it's a great conversation, Pa Thomas. I wish I could continue this for much longer.
Sure.
But we'll probably do another episode, another edition if all of you are interested. But it's been an absolute pleasure and delight to have you with us today, right? And the intent, again, as I told you, is for an audience to kind of understand from leaders what it takes to get where you are, right? And on that note, this is Ravi signing off. It's a delight to have all of you with us, and it's a delight hosting Pa Thomas in this conversation today. And we'll come back to the next episode pretty soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Pa Thomas.
Thank you.